At 26, I thought I had it all. Felix, my fiancé, the man I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, was perfect. We had been together for 3 years when he proposed. The wedding was set, everything was ready. But just 1 week before our big day, Felix shattered my world through a text. He didn't even have the decency to call me or meet me in person. The love of my life dumped me like I was nothing, and he left without a second thought. He told me it was for his dream job in Germany, a research position that was apparently too important for him to pass up. He claimed he couldn't expect me to give up my life, my career, my family, and friends just for him, and that he couldn't stay behind for my sake either. But what hurt the most wasn't his decision. It was how he left without a word. No goodbye, just a cold, heartless text. He didn't even have the courage to face me and tell me what was happening. It felt like I had been discarded, like I wasn't worth the effort. I was blindsided. I had never even seen it coming. He didn't care enough to talk through things with me. He just walked away from everything we had built together, as if it meant nothing. The wedding I had been dreaming of for years was suddenly gone. The dress, the venue, the planning, everything was erased in an instant. Felix didn't even show up to the airport for his bachelor trip to Hawaii. Hours later, I found out he was already on a plane to Germany, following his so-called dreams. His apology, if you could even call it that, was brief. He said I deserved better and that he couldn't wait for me, that his dreams came first. It was cruel, but I tried to be understanding at first. I didn't want to hold him back, but what I wanted was simple, a conversation, a chance to talk it through. Instead, I was left in shock, alone and devastated, with no closure. The pain from that breakup was unbearable. I spent days crying, unable to sleep, wondering how someone who once claimed to love me could treat me like this. Felix paid off all the wedding vendors, but the money couldn't ease the emptiness I felt. He destroyed everything in one selfish, impulsive act. I had been the woman who supported his dreams, and he couldn't even face me when it mattered most. I was left with nothing but unanswered questions, a broken heart, and a shattered future. It's strange how life works. After Felix left me in pieces, his cousin Sam somehow became my unexpected lifeline. Sam had always been a quiet presence in our lives, never too involved in Felix's and my relationship, but he was there. At first, I didn't want to hear from him. How could I, when everything I thought I knew about love had been shattered? But Sam kept reaching out, sending messages, checking in, offering a shoulder to cry on. It wasn't until the funeral of Felix's grandmother, just a month after the breakup, that I finally saw Sam again. The grief from losing Felix had only grown deeper. The wedding that never happened, the life I had planned to build with him, all of it seemed to haunt me like a suffocating shadow. At the funeral, I found Sam in the corner of the room, standing alone, his usual reserved demeanor now tinged with sadness. We locked eyes for a brief moment, and something unspoken passed between us. He approached me cautiously, offering me comfort without saying much. There were no words that could ease the ache in my heart, but Sam's presence, oddly, felt like a small balm. "I know you're hurting," he said, his voice soft, almost apologetic. "Felix made a mistake, but you don't have to carry the weight of it alone." At that moment, I couldn't bring myself to tell him how furious I was at Felix. How could I? Felix had destroyed me, betrayed my trust in the most brutal way. But Sam wasn't Felix. He was different. Maybe that's why, despite my better judgment, I found myself leaning on him more and more in the weeks that followed. I didn't even realize it at first how his kindness and patience were slowly starting to heal the wounds Felix had left. Sam would show up at my apartment with coffee, sit with me during those long, sleepless nights, and listen as I poured out the broken fragments of my heart. I never had to explain. He just knew. He saw the devastation that Felix had left in his wake, and he never once judged me. Sam would drop everything to make sure I was okay, even canceling his plans to stay by my side. There was a comfort in knowing that he was there, not because of some obligation, but because he truly cared. I started looking forward to our conversations. Those late night talks that went on for hours about life, love, and everything in between. Sam didn't push me to open up too quickly. He gave me the space I needed, but when I did talk, he was there. His unwavering support somehow healing the wounds I didn't even know I still carried. But somewhere along the way, I started to see Sam in a different light. His kindness began to feel like something more, something deeper. I started to notice the little things. The way he would smile at me just a bit longer than necessary, the way his eyes would linger on me when I wasn't looking, the way he would help me with even the smallest tasks, like fixing a broken light bulb or carrying my groceries. I couldn't deny it any longer. Sam was becoming more than just Felix's cousin. He was becoming the person I relied on, the one who made me feel seen when I felt invisible, the one who brought light into the dark corners of my heart. But just when I thought things were finally starting to make sense again, fate threw another wrench into everything. Sam confessed his feelings for me had grown into something he couldn't ignore. And that was the moment I felt my entire world come crashing down again. Here was someone who had been my rock, my support when I was nothing but a broken shell. And now he was telling me that he loved me. My heart ached. Did I feel the same way? Or was I just afraid of being alone? Could I move on from Felix and allow myself to be with Sam, knowing the betrayal Felix had caused? I didn't know. The lines between loyalty, love, and healing were becoming dangerously blurred, and I was caught in the crossfire. I never thought I would see him again. Felix, my ex-fiancé, the man who had torn apart my heart without a second thought, was nothing more than a shadow in my past. Yet life has a way of forcing you to confront the demons you thought were long gone. One stormy evening, 3 months after the breakup, he reappeared. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day that felt like nothing could go right. I just wrapped up a long day at work, my mind still heavy with the residual thoughts of everything I'd been trying to rebuild since Felix's betrayal. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. I had grown accustomed to the stillness, but tonight something felt off. I could almost sense the chaos that was about to erupt. The knock on the door was so sudden, so unexpected, that it made my heart skip a beat. I opened it cautiously, thinking it might be a delivery or a mistake. But there he was, Felix, standing in front of me like a ghost I couldn't escape, his eyes filled with regret, his face older, more worn than the last time I saw him, but still unmistakably him. Lena, he whispered my name like a prayer, as if saying it out loud might make everything that had happened disappear. I froze. My breath caught in my throat, the air thick with disbelief and anger. My mind screamed at me to slam the door in his face, to end this nightmare once and for all, but my body didn't obey. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I know I don't deserve this, he continued, his voice shaking with emotion. But I need you to hear me out. Please, just give me a chance to explain. Explain? What could he possibly say that would make any of this right? The lies, the deceit, the way he had thrown away everything we had worked for like it was nothing. The audacity of him standing there asking for my forgiveness. It was beyond infuriating. I finally found my voice. You think you can just walk back into my life like nothing happened? I spat, each word dripping with venom. You ruined me, Felix. You shattered everything. And now you want to explain? He flinched at the sharpness of my words, but I didn't care. I needed him to understand how deeply he had hurt me, how his betrayal had broken something inside me that could never be fixed. I know, he said, his voice breaking. I was selfish. I was stupid, but I'm not that man anymore. I've changed, Lena. I've been working on myself. I've realized what I lost. What we lost. I was a fool to ever think I could walk away from you and be okay. I was wrong. My hands shook with fury. And what exactly do you want from me now, Felix? After everything, after the months of agony, you want me to just forgive you? He looked at me, the pain in his eyes almost unbearable to witness. I am asking for a chance to prove it. To prove I can be the man you once believed in. I wanted to scream, to throw him out of my life once and for all. But something in his eyes, something raw, vulnerable, desperate, kept me rooted to the spot. I was torn. Could I ever trust him again? Could I really let myself believe in the man who had betrayed me so deeply? But then the guilt hit me. Was it the love I still had for him, or the fear of being alone, that made me hesitate? Could I even trust myself to make the right decision anymore? The room felt like it was closing in on me, and in that moment, I knew one thing. Felix's return had thrown my world into chaos once again, and I didn't know if I could ever truly escape it. Felix had always been a man of confidence, but that confidence was now shattered. When he returned to my life, it wasn't with the same self-assured swagger he used to carry. No, now he was a shadow of the man I once knew, lost, desperate, and drowning in his own mistakes. It was as if the weight of his guilt had consumed him entirely, leaving behind a broken version of himself that barely resembled the man who had once promised me the world. He came to me again a week after that explosive confrontation at my door. I had been avoiding him, not answering his calls or texts, yet he persisted. I suppose he thought that if he just showed up enough times, I would eventually crumble, forgive him, and let him back into my life. But he was wrong. That day, when I finally opened the door to him, I saw it in his eyes, the fear. It was there, raw and palpable, as if he knew he was losing me for good. His hands were shaking, his eyes bloodshot, and there was something haunting in the way he looked at me. Felix wasn't the man I once loved anymore. He was a man who had lost everything, including himself. "I'm falling apart, Lena," he confessed, his voice cracking with the weight of his words. "I don't know what to do anymore. I'm not handling this loss. I thought I could move on, that I could survive without you, but every damn day, it's like I'm suffocating. I can't breathe. I can't think straight. I didn't know how to respond." Part of me felt a flicker of sympathy for him, but it quickly dissolved into anger. This wasn't my responsibility. I had spent so many nights lying awake, wondering if he was even capable of feeling the depth of the hurt he had caused me. Yet here he was, standing before me, unraveling before my eyes, and I was supposed to just forgive him. Forget everything? You think you're the only one who's struggling? I shot back, my voice laced with venom. You think I've been fine? That I've just forgotten how you destroyed me? How you tore apart everything we had? You don't get to come here, act like you're the victim, and expect me to fix you. He flinched at my words, but I didn't care. He had no right to claim any part of me anymore. Not after what he had done. But still, he stood there like a broken man begging for a chance to make things right. "I'm sorry, Lena," he whispered, his voice so low I could barely hear it. "I know I've destroyed you. I've destroyed myself. I've ruined everything, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix me." It was almost heartbreaking watching the man I had once believed in crumble before me. But the reality was, I had no responsibility to save him. He had made his choice, and now he was facing the consequences. His struggles weren't mine to bear. I shook my head, the bitterness of the past months clouding my judgment. "You're not the man I once knew, Felix. And I'm not the woman who will ever love you again." His eyes filled with tears, and for a fleeting moment, I almost gave in. Almost! But then I remembered all the promises he had broken, all the lies he had told, and I hardened my heart once more. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, as if he was speaking to himself rather than me. "You're right," I said, my words cutting through the air like a blade. "And you'll never be able to forgive me either. Because this, whatever we had, it's gone. And I'm not coming back." With that, I closed the door, leaving Felix standing on the other side, alone with his shattered self. Felix and I had been through so much, so many emotions, so many battles, so many heart-wrenching moments where everything seemed like it was slipping through our fingers. But something shifted after that last confrontation, something neither of us had seen coming. Amidst the wreckage of our relationship, A glimmer of hope emerged. This time, it wasn't from us alone. It was from those around us. Sam, Felix's cousin. He had always been the more grounded one, the mediator, the one who could calm the storm. But even I hadn't realized how deep his concern ran for both of us until he showed up unannounced, like an angel of mercy. It was a crisp Saturday morning when Sam appeared at my doorstep, his expression unreadable as he watched me hesitate for a moment before I opened the door. I don't know what's going on between you two, but it's time we all face the truth, Sam said, his voice low but commanding, like he knew more than he was letting on. He wasn't the type to mince words, and I admired that about him. Still, his sudden arrival had my heart racing. Was he here to pick sides, to drag Felix and me back together? Or was he here to finish what Felix and I had started? I didn't know how to feel, but I knew Sam wasn't just going to stand there and let me wallow in my pain. And Felix, well, he had been unraveling. He needed someone, anyone, to pull him out of the darkness. He wasn't the man I had once loved, but that didn't mean I was ready to watch him completely self-destruct. As the days passed, Sam's presence became a steady force in our lives, both mine and Felix's. He was patient with me even when I felt like I was losing control. He pushed Felix to confront his demons, to deal with the consequences of his actions head-on. And at the same time, he helped me see the parts of myself that had been buried under layers of anger and disappointment. He knew how to talk to me when I thought no one could reach me, how to remind me that healing wasn't about waiting for Felix to fix things, it was about fixing myself first. At first, I resented the idea that Felix's cousin, of all people, would be the one to help us navigate this mess. But soon, I found myself confiding in Sam, sharing pieces of my pain, my frustrations, things I'd never been able to voice to anyone else. He was there for me when I felt like the world was crashing down, offering insight and perspective I hadn't considered before. He didn't just listen. He guided, he challenged, and in some moments, he even made me laugh when I thought I had forgotten how. Sam's influence on Felix was undeniable. It wasn't easy. Felix resisted. Of course, he hated the idea of anyone telling him how to fix himself, but Sam didn't back down. Slowly but surely, Felix began to take responsibility for his actions, acknowledging how much he had hurt me and how far he had fallen from the man he once was. It wasn't perfect. There were still nights when I could feel the weight of all the unresolved pain between us, and I would retreat into my own thoughts, uncertain of what the future held. But Sam had given us a lifeline, a way to see past the wreckage and start rebuilding piece by piece. Through all the chaos, Sam became our anchor. He gave us both a sense of clarity, of direction, something we desperately needed. He wasn't just trying to fix us. He was helping us find a way to fix ourselves, to stop blaming each other and to start working towards something that resembled peace. But even with Sam's support, the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. The damage had been done and healing takes time. But one thing was certain, Felix and I weren't alone in this anymore. With Sam's unwavering support, there was at least a chance, however slim, that we could both find a way forward. I wish I could say things had settled, that Felix and I had somehow managed to find our way back to each other, but the truth is, we're still caught in the thick of it. The dust hasn't fully settled. Every day feels like walking through a minefield, with moments of tension exploding out of nowhere. The weight of everything that has happened still presses heavily on my chest, suffocating any sense of peace or closure. The wounds are there, raw and unhealed, and no matter how hard I try to move forward, I can't shake the feeling that everything could fall apart at any moment. Felix, he's still here physically, but emotionally, I'm not sure he's ever fully present anymore. It's like the person I once knew has fractured into 1,000 pieces, and I'm left picking up the remnants of a dream that no longer feels real. When we talk, it's strained. His words feel hollow, disconnected. There are times when I catch him staring at me, as if he's trying to remember who I am, or worse, if he's already forgotten. And me? I'm trying. I'm really trying to hold it all together. But I've been battered and broken so many times that I'm not sure how much strength I have left. The woman I once was hopeful, trusting, so in love feels like a stranger to me now. I catch glimpses of her in moments of silence, when I allow myself to be still, but she's fading. And it terrifies me. It terrifies me that I might wake up one day and not recognize the person I've become. It's like we're stuck in this endless loop, replaying the same painful scenes over and over again, unable to escape. The arguments still happen, sharp and biting, filled with blame and resentment. I try to be patient. I try to remind myself that healing takes time, but sometimes I wonder if we pass the point of no return. The biggest hurdle, I think, is the fear that still lingers between us. The fear that no matter how much we try to rebuild, it will never be the same. Felix still hasn't fully owned up to everything. There are still secrets, still things left unsaid, and I can feel them like a thick fog that hovers over us, clouding any chance of clarity. And then there's the looming uncertainty of the future. Are we just two people clinging to the wreckage of something that was never meant to last? Or is there a way out of this? I can't help but ask myself if we're just wasting our time, prolonging the inevitable. I want to believe in us. I want to believe in the love we once had. But it feels like an impossible dream, one that slips further away every time I try to grasp it. We're caught between two versions of reality. The past, where everything seemed perfect, and the present, where nothing feels certain anymore. And every time I look at Felix, I wonder if he's holding on to the same dream, or if he's already resigned himself to the fact that we're beyond saving. I know one thing for sure: the path ahead is anything but clear. Each day feels like a battle. Each step forward feels like we're trudging through quicksand, sinking deeper into a place where neither of us knows how to escape. The current situation is fragile, to say the least. We're standing on the edge, unsure whether to take the leap and let go of the past or to keep fighting, even when the weight of everything seems too much to bear. As I sit here staring into the abyss of my own reflection, I can't help but wonder how we got here. The woman I see in the mirror is a far cry from the woman I once was. Time has aged me, yes, but it's the weight of everything that has happened, everything I've endured that has drained me of the light I used to carry so effortlessly. I can feel the cracks in my soul like fractured glass, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to glue them back together. There was a time when I believed in love without limits, when I thought that Felix and I were unstoppable, destined to conquer the world together. But now I can barely even remember what it felt like to trust him, to believe in his promises. Those words, once so sweet, now hang in the air like a distant echo, mocking me with their false comfort. Every memory we built together feels tainted by the shadow of betrayal, each moment now a reminder of the person he became and the things he hid from me. I spent so much time looking back, trying to piece together the fragments of a relationship that feels more like a shattered dream than anything real. But the more I search for answers, the more lost I become. The questions never stop, and with each one, I feel myself sinking further into the abyss of doubt and fear. Could I have done something differently? Should I have seen the signs? Or was this inevitable, a tragedy waiting to unfold from the very beginning? And then there's the guilt. The overwhelming, suffocating guilt that wraps itself around my heart, squeezing until I can't breathe. Did I fail him? Did I push him away when all he needed was my love and support? I can't shake the feeling that I let him down somehow, that I wasn't enough to keep us together. But deep down, I know the truth. I wasn't the one who tore us apart. It wasn't me who made the decisions that led us down this path of destruction. As I reflect on everything, the good, the bad, the heartbreaking, I find myself standing at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take. I spent so much time in the past, holding on to what we once were, that I've forgotten how to move forward. I'm stuck in this limbo, torn between wanting to fight for what we had and knowing deep down that I might be better off letting go. The future is a blur, a cloud of uncertainty that I can't see through. But one thing is clear. The woman who looks back at me in the mirror is not the same one who dreamed of forever with Felix. And maybe that's a sign that it's time to let go, to stop chasing something that no longer exists. It's time to stop reflecting on what we lost and start facing the reality of who I am now and who I want to become.